Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome all my friends back into the show that doesn't end, really. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. Scott, Born on the Bayou Sports, how are we doing this week?
Doing good, and it always reminds me of the never-ending story and how they always said part 1, part 2, part 3. It's the never-ending story. There are no parts.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Exactly. Scott, you've kind of taken charge or taken control, or we'll say ownership, and treat it professionally. You've taken ownership over the opening question. So what do you have for us here this week?
Well, this is going to have to do with our favorite segments of the week. And that is, we're going to have some criticism of some folks. So I wanted us to break down exactly how our roles would be defined. So, opening question, would you define us as journalists?
I would not in the role of the podcast host that we're playing here today.
So, but how about your secondary role as a play-by-play guy? Would you consider a play-by-play guy to be a journalist?
I do think play-by-play is journalism. Yes, broadcast journalism.
So would you say that my role of writing for, let's say, Battle Red Blog or Crawfish Boxes, would that classify me as a journalist?
I wouldn't, because I don't think that's journalism what you're doing. I think that's analysis. I think that's opinion. I think you would be an analyst in that sense, right? Like I think you are credentialed to go be a quote unquote expert. If CNN is doing something on a certain baseball player, I think you've got the expertise to be that expert in that sense. But I don't think you're the guy who conducts the interview.
Okay. So would you say that we are probably the role that we would fit most comfortably in? Would that be of analyst?
I think so. Yeah.
So we kind of play that because, one of the things we like to do here is we like to criticize maybe the media at large. And we do that while, I don't know if we're firmly in the media, but, I'd say we're media members.
I agree with that. I think we're lower scale members than most, but I do think in general, this is the world we live in where social media allows people to have their own broadcasts. We are in some way or another members of media.
And we have a role and we have a responsibility to get things right, or at least, I guess, argue our points with intellectual honesty. So you have an obligation whenever you're calling a high school baseball game or a high school football game to actually report what is going on during the game. I mean, you can't just, wildly, sit there and say, that was, well, I guess you could be a homer, I guess. But I think most people would agree that your first responsibility is to report what's actually going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the goal, especially as a play-by-play guy here. My job is to tell you what is happening and how it's happening. It's not really my job to tell you why it happened.
Right. So you would have a color guy or an analyst sitting next to you that should hopefully have that role, right? That correct?
In the high school world, it's a little bit different, but yeah,
No.
I mean,
in an ideal world, right? Even if it's Olivia, what was her name, Dukakis, from Steel Magnolias, who thought color commentating was somebody commenting on, how good the jerseys looked.
That's essentially what I get sometimes. But no, I do have somebody else, right? Like the way any broadcast sets up, my job is to tell you what happened, how it happened, and then I take it to the analyst or the color guy to tell you why it happened or what caused it to happen.
So, bringing that analyst idea to the forefront, we actually have, all three Houston teams have been active in this last week. A lot has gone on. Obviously, you had the NFL draft. The Rockets are in the midst of a playoff series with the Warriors, and the Astros are still going on. So I'll put it back in your court. Where would you like to lead us off, Tim?
Well, Scott, I had a nice little title ready to go that said the Rockets were in control of Game 5, and all of a sudden it's a fucking 15-point game.
14.
The Sengun just made the free throw to make it 15. But either way, man, what was a dominant-looking performance through three quarters. They've allowed the Warriors to get back into it a little bit, but the Rockets do have their starting lineup out there, so let's hope that they can close this thing down.
Well, what I was noting, and this is especially before they made this major run, assuming that we go back to Golden State, we'll be down 3-2. We will have scored more points in the series than the Warriors.
And what's really frustrating, Scott, when I look back, especially at Game 4, I thought the Rockets played a spectacular basketball game. They missed 10 free throws, and they lost that game by 3. Jesus, they made another one. They missed 10 free throws, and they lost that game by 3. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you make your free throws, you win the game. Unfortunately, they didn't make their free throws.
Well, and I think, there's also the elephant in the room has got to be, Jalen Green. Jalen Green, comes up with 38 points in Game 2. And I don't think he scored 38 points in the other 4 games combined.
No.
So I don't know what to make of Jalen Green at this point.
It's honestly, frustrating is the wrong word. It is mind-boggling that you're not a role player, right? If you were like a random 3-point shooter who got hot and had a bunch of looks, like, okay, it would make sense. That's the way the game broke that day. But you're supposed to be the guy who has the ball in his hands, who dictates the offense. And not only did you not score much in 3 of the 4 games, he wasn't on the floor in the final 10 minutes of the fourth quarter in a tight game, especially in a 1-possession, 1-point game. Jalen Green was not on the floor. They needed a bucket, and he wasn't even playable in Game 4.
Yeah, and I think what we're discovering is that I think Alpi Sengun is a legitimate NBA player in this league. I think he's a legitimate number 2 guy on a good team. Just looking at the numbers, he's averaging, over 20 points in the series. He's averaging over 10 rebounds in the series. He's averaging, 5-6 assists a game in the series. That's the kind of production that you want from your second guy. And I think if you look at his season stats, that's pretty much in line with what he was doing in the regular season, if not a little bit better. So I feel good about that. We ragged on Fred VanVleet after Game 1, but, since Game 1, he's shown up. He's played pretty good basketball. Dylan Brooks has played good basketball. It's just really glaringly what's missing. And what's missing is they don't had that number 1 scorer.
Things are getting fucking contentious right now. Is what's missing is a referee that's been able to keep this thing under control, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But no, you're right. They don't have a true wing scorer. It's every night it's who's got the best looks, and some teams can play that way. Okay, there are teams that
when your center is your go-to guy, it's going to depend on who gets the ball kicked out to them and who's got the best looks. But you got a shit ton of money committed to Fred VanVleet, at least this year. He's a huge number. You got $90 million committed to Jalen Green over the next 3 years. That's not a number for a role player. You are asking Jalen Green to step up and to be that guy. And I saw a guy who got benched in the fourth quarter. I saw a guy who only took 3 shots in the first half tonight. Like, yeah, the team played great. That's awesome. But you took 3 shots. Like, and the team played great. That's not a good sign to me.
So I'll give you 2 options here, Tim. Because to me, in my mind, they're both equally plausible. Option 1 is Jalen Green's 22 years old. And so is this just the growing pains of a young player who's going to get better? Or are we seeing glimpses of his ceiling?
I think he's going to get better. I do. He is, as you said, he's only 22 years old. I do think he's going to continue to get better. I just don't know, Scott, how patient the Rockets are. How patient can you be, right? This is a roster that's built to win right now, right? Like, we didn't really realize how good it was, but now you've played a full 82-game season and you were the second best team in your conference this year. That shows me that you need to add to this bad boy and try and go win a ring next year. You're seeing right now the areas in the playoffs that you're being exploited, which is on the wing. They are giving Amen Thompson the fucking Russell Westbrook treatment and saying, go ahead and shoot. They are doubling hard on Jalen Green, and they're able to do so because Amen Thompson cannot shoot. And Jalen has not made good decisions with the basketball when he's been doubled. So, like, I don't know what the solution is. I like what I've seen out of Jabari Smith. I think maybe he needs to get more offense drawn up for him because his little mid-range game and his three-point shot has come a long way. And I don't know, to me, maybe Jalen's not the superstar. I'm not saying Jabari Smith is, but I'm saying he's at least a consistent jump shooter. Jalen Green is anything but.
Yeah, and I think the problem with this team is that, and I made this point, we've been texting back and forth. You probably have, at the very worst this offseason, you have the mid-level exception, and you have a lottery pick. So you can probably add 2 role players to this team, but you're already running an 8-9 deep rotation as it is. So, where are these role players going to fit in? Or do you start treating, multiple players in order to get one better player? Maybe not a superstar, but, somebody who fits a more defined role. We've mentioned before just the need for shooting. You've mentioned, point guards, from the past who you consider to be more, set-up shooters than maybe necessarily floor generals. I don't know if anybody is on the market who's available like that. You could probably get another maybe 3-and-D guy, I'm sure. Somebody that could hit, 3-pointers on a consistent basis. But getting minutes for all those guys is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for sure. But you got to remember, Fred VanVleet's money is coming off the books. Technically, he's probably not back at the same number. Pretty sure Steven Adams, is set to be a free agent as well. And then, as you said, do we look at trading a couple of guys to go get someone who makes you better? One thing I want you to think about, though, is, to me, what's the main difference this year and last year with the Thunder?
With the Thunder, they made that deal with the Knicks. So, I guess that probably helped them inside, but really it's just a year of getting older and getting more mature.
I think it's one player, too. And that guy's Alex Caruso. I don't think Alex Caruso is a superstar. I think Alex Caruso is a star in his role. I think he makes everybody else around him better. I think he doesn't have to shoot the ball if you don't need him to shoot. He'll play defense, he'll pass, he'll rebound, he'll do whatever you need to do. But he is a true role player who understands what his role is, and he's willing to play it night in and night out. The Rockets do not have that. Even the guy who should be their role player, Dylan Brooks, who should be a 3-and-D player, kind of thinks he's a star on offense at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a point there. I think I would say the best scenario is Amen Thompson plays more of the 3 on a permanent basis, and Dylan Brooks maybe comes off the bench. I don't know, because that's my question. Though, it goes back to Green, and that is what is his ceiling? Like, who would you compare him to in currently in the league? Say
in the league,
he could develop into this guy.
CJ McCollum.
I mean, okay. I might compare
him. Prime.
I might compare him to. I think his ceiling is Devin Booker. So, but how many titles has Devin Booker won?
0. And Devin Booker's a much better jump shooter.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's who Green could be. Like, if he's Green is at his apex, 26, 27 years old, has all of his powers at his disposal, he could become that guy. But where does that guy lead you?
And that guy's a volume scorer. He's inefficient, and he's ball dominant. And we've seen what happens when the Suns have 3 inefficient, ball dominant volume scorers. Well, Durant's not inefficient, but you've got 3 guys who like to have the ball in their hands and create offense for themselves, right? None of those guys are catch and shoot players.
Yeah,
and they sucked.
Bradley Beal, that was it. I mean, that was a rotisserie basketball move on their part. He doesn't fit what they do, at all. But they looked at him going like, man, Durant 20+ points a game, Booker 20+ points a game. Let's bring in Beal 20+ points. That's 60 points. It's like, no, doesn't exactly work that way.
That being said, Bradley Beal might be a nice piece here.
Well, I mean, but then he's not the guy that is the number 1 scorer. I don't think that's him at this stage in his career. So, is he augmenting somebody or is he replacing somebody?
I think in an augment scenario, I'd be happy to have Bradley Beal, right? A little pop off the bench, something along along those lines. Just give you another option.
I'll give you just when it came down and reported. So a couple of things have happened. The Bucks have been eliminated in the first round, and Damian Lillard tore his Achilles. So he said he's not retiring, but he's going to be out for all of next season. So the speculation is that Giannis is gone. I'll just say that he is 4-1 to go to the Rockets. The Rockets were the second favorite to get him.
But that's simply because we're a young team who had an unexpectedly good season, and we have tradable assets, right? They're just assuming there's no connection, right? Like, they're just looking at who can go get Giannis. Could we go get him? Sure. Like, we've got a collection of talent that could match anybody in the league. As you mentioned, we've got a lottery pick this year. My thing is, Scott, what am I having to give up? It's probably going to be Jalen Green. It's probably going to be Jabari Smith, probably Cam Whitmore, and maybe a first, would you say?
So, well, let's say that's the package, right? So we tried this back in the 80s. You'd be running basically a twin tower set with 2 guys in the middle who are good all-around offensive players. I mean, Giannis is a good passer. He's a really good passer. And we know Sengun is a really good passer. So can you win with Amen Thompson and Dylan Brooks as your perimeter players?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's where
Do you?
that's the struggle. That's where I'm getting to. Is the struggle is like there are things Giannis does that I love. I mean, he's a 30-point a game scorer, which is some of the things we've identified we need. He rebounds the ball, good defender, great post passer. And so, you could set up a really interesting offense surrounding two really good post passers, but you have to have somebody on the outside that can knock down shots. And right now, that's not Eamon Thompson.
No. And I haven't seen enough from Reed Shepherd to assume he's going to be that guy. I'm all for making a smart move, moving some of the assets that we have and getting better. But I'm not for completely reshaping this roster to go get a guy, right? Like, if I can make a trade for Reed Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, and a first-round pick, and go get a good quality 3-and-D guy, or if I could go get Grimes, who the Mavericks gave up for next to nothing and then ended up being great, I'd go get him in a heartbeat for that pick. If I could trade, Cam Whitmore in a first for Sasser, from Detroit, I'd do that in a heartbeat because he gives you 3-point shooting. He gives you a great backup point guard, a true legitimate point guard. He gives you defense. He's a UH Cougar, so he knows how to D up. He trained with Kelvin Sampson, for Pete's sake. Like, that's a guy who's prepared to go to war every night.
And the thing is about that is that and I just want to remind everybody as we are going to move on to Game 6. They're up by 18 with less than 2 minutes left. I'm pretty confident that even the Rockets can secure that one, just fine.
They made it way fucking closer than it needed to be, Scott.
But we've scored more points than the Warriors in the series. I want to remind everybody of that because, yes, the likelihood is this thing is ending in 6. That's the likelihood. But this team is a whole lot closer than what it appears.
I don't disagree. The Rockets are a very good basketball team, right? But at the end of the day, this is what you and I were worried about. And honestly, you a little bit more than me. I was conducting the hype train 2 weeks ago. But the lack of playoff experience, the being able to handle your emotions, right? Like, the Rockets came out so flat in Game 1. Like, they were not good from the tip. They were great in Game 2. Game 3 and Game 4, they let Draymond Green get in their shit, right? Like, they let a wily veteran disrupt their mental fortitude and let them be owned mentally, right? There's no other way to describe it. But how would they have known that? But without being there, right? How would they have known what it's like to play the same team 6 to 7 times in a row and to see a guy like Draymond Green night in and night out and know he's going to fuck with you, and you have to know how to handle that.
And here's the soul-searching thing for the Rockets this offseason. Would you say how many post defenders in the NBA are better than Draymond Green?
Than who?
Than Draymond Green.
A handful.
A handful. Yet Alpi Sengun went out there and he got his customary 20 and 10. He figured out a way to go out and score his 20 points and get 10 rebounds and dish out 5-6 assists on a nightly basis. So teams, when you're in that 5, 6, 7 game series, and we've done the same thing to them. We've figured out how to defend certain guys. But the difference is Steph Curry still figures out a way to get off shots. Sengun's figuring out a way to get off shots. Now, a lot of it's when Green's not on the floor, but, we've kind of figured that out. Green, they obviously had a plan for him, and he could not figure out a way to overcome it. So the question for the Rockets, I think, moving forward is he going to get it?
I mean, and we won't stay on the Rockets forever, but can you ever remember a time where you had a game plan for 7 games for Kobe Bryant, and you limited him. We'll sit through 5 games now. You limited him for 4 of the 5 games. Did that ever happen?
No.
First, maybe not his rookie year, right? But once Kobe became Kobe, you may get him a game, right? You may slow him down for a game, but he's not going to let that happen again. He would never let that happen 3 times, and he sure as fuck wouldn't let it happen 4.
No, and the thing is that even when he was a rookie, he was getting off shots. He just wasn't making them. But, I mean, he was still shooting the basketball. And the thing, when you look at it, it took Dream nearly a decade, to get his ring. So this is not oh my God, Green's got to figure it out.
But it wasn't because of Dream.
But the thing,
Dream wasn't the problem.
He always got his. That's the difference. And that's what happens when you're a number 1 guy, is you always get yours. I guarantee you, Luka is not getting shut down more than 1 game in a series. Now, he may not defend worth a shit, but he's going to score, he's going to pass, he's going to do all the things. And you look at, every good team in the playoffs, they have a guy that they can count on to score 20 and probably 20 plus.
I mean, and what's frustrating, Chad, is the Rockets have 3 of those guys, right? Like, we at any point, we have 3 different guys who can pop for 20. But you can't count on any of them individually to say, I'll bet every dollar I have to say Jalen Green gives me 20 tonight. I bet every dollar I have to say that Fred VanVleet gives me 20 tonight. I bet every dollar I have to say Sengun goes for 20 and 10 tonight. He might. He's capable of going for a triple-double. But he also might go 15 and 6 because sometimes he just does that shit too.
Yeah, I figured of all the guys, Sengun is the one I feel the most confident in is going to give me that.
I do, but every now and then he just fucking doesn't show up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's true. And the thing is, big guys are easier to defend than perimeter guys. Because perimeter guy, you can give him the ball like near the top of the key and say, do your thing. But, big guy is reliant on somebody getting him the basketball. And you can push him out the lane. All right. We got to move on.
We got to move it on. Yeah, we can't spend a whole show on the Rockets.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were wrapping up and then you went to the second part.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
All right, let's talk some Astros. Let's talk some Astros baseball. Coming off a pretty good homestand, took 2 or 3 from the Tigers, a team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year. I thought the pitching was pretty good. A Jeremy Pena error today cost, is it blue ball? Is how you say that?
Yeah, I think so.
But blue balls. But either way, no, he kind of got the tough luck loss. I don't think he pitched poorly. He should have been out of that inning, and instead he had an error. He got Crawford boxed, and next thing you know, tough luck loser in your major league debut.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to make some easy money off of ESPN 97.5 because this is like the 3rd or 4th time this has happened this year where they're like on the air in the afternoon. Well, Blue Ball is going to start pitching at 6:05 tonight, and we'll see what he's got. And so I felt like calling in and said, like, I bet you $100 that Pena hits a home run the 1st inning, and Caratini hits one the 7th, and we still lose. You have any takers?
You can't expect much out of ESPN 97.5. I interned at that station. I know how things work behind closed doors, so to say. I mean, it was 15 years ago, but I doubt things have changed much.
They did admit their mistake late in the broadcast, but I was like, okay, guys, maybe knowing when the game starts. That's kind of just, I don't know.
You've got two teams this season, right? Like, you don't have to worry about Texans games right now. You got the Rockets in the playoffs. You got the Astros. The Astros play every day. Was I shocked when they started early today? Yeah, I was. I got an update. Hey, cool. But you know what I do? I sign up for updates on my phone, Scott. The least you can do as a fucking host of a sports talk radio show in the city of which you reside is sign up for game start updates. I don't know.
I know, it's just crazy. But I'll say this. I think my MVP, my unsung MVP of the first half is Ryan Gusto. And I hate to make this comparison, Tim, because of all the vitriol that is attached. But I want you to take gander back to 2017 with me. Do you remember Mike Fire's season?
Yeah, I mean, he had a good year that year.
Well, actually, overall,
In parts,
overall,
he stepped up
because he was not in the playoff rotation. But for about a month or 2-month period, he was the best pitcher on the staff. And I think the unsung thing about the baseball season is that you can split it into 4 or 5 chunks. And right now, Gusto has been exactly what you needed for this chunk. Will he be in the rotation when the season's over? I hope not. I hope we got other options. But he's been a guy that's held it together. Him and Wisniewski, I think both have been huge in holding this thing together in April.
No, that's a great point. You know, he's pitched well enough to continue to get starts too, right? Like sometimes a spot starter comes up and that's the only start they get. But he's been competitive every 5th day through. I think the problem right now is you texted me the other day when we were watching Blanco, right? Like, got to have the mentality this guy's basically a 5th starter. Okay.
Yeah.
Wisniewski, hey, he's our 5th starter. You can't expect. Okay. Gusto, filling in, probably, got 5th starter, 4th starter mentality. Okay. Blue Ball, rookie, make his first start. Don't have high hopes there. Okay. So now it's like we're a 2-man fucking show right now, Scott. Right? Like it's Fromber, and you hope that you get good Fromber, and you hope that the offense comes with good Fromber because you got good Fromber in Kansas City and couldn't hit Seth Lugo. And then you got Hunter Brown, who has been
might be the best pitcher in the American League.
I was going to say, I think he's been the best pitcher of the league so far. I don't think it's unfair to say that.
No, but Tim, who's coming back Sunday?
Oh, the man, the myth, the legend, a real man of genius.
There's your number 3 guy, Tim.
Lance McCullers. Hey, Scott, do I need to treat him like he's a number 5 too?
I would say a number 6 or 7, but
you've texted me about 3 different guys. Like, we should treat this like he's a number 5 star.
Now I said Wisniewski's a solid 4.
Okay. So our number 3, I was told to treat like a solid 5. Our 4 is a solid 4.
Our number 3 broke his hand in a weird batting practice incident.
But now our number 3 is Blanco.
Blanco, I don't know. But I like, Blue Ball didn't pitch horribly. He gave up 7 runs.
No, he was fine, but only 2 earned. I mean, Pena makes a play, and he's out of that inning.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that one. And he pitched, considering that offensive numbers are ridiculous in the PCL. He's pitched to about a 4 ERA over the last 2 years. That's not horrible. It's not anything that you're going to, call up Baseball America and say, here's your top 100 pitcher right here. But this pitching coaching tandem has made a lot of chicken out of chicken shit.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got the most out of the talent that's available when it comes to pitching. I think the bullpen has mostly found a way, right? You stop using Taylor Scott in high leverage situations. I think that's worked out well. Brian Abreu is on paternity leave.
Yes.
So that'll be something that the team does have to navigate over the next few days. But I'm excited for McCullers to be back. I don't know why. I think he's going to pitch well. Like, I really do. The guy, I like Lance McCullers. Like, I will come out and say it. Am I disappointed that he's missed so much time? Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I think Lance would say he's disappointed he's missed so much time. But when Lance McCullers is healthy, Lance McCullers has consistently been a really good pitcher.
Yeah, I think if you get the Lance McCullers of old, you're getting a number 3 starter. And so I think that's your best hope. I don't think that you're going to get that out of the gate because, even if you build him up, this guy hasn't pitched in a major league game since 2022. So, I mean, you're talking over 800 days.
Yeah. But let's also remember 2021, he was one of the best pitchers in the league, and he was your number one starter.
Yes.
So the pedigree is there, right? Would we have loved for him to find a way to get back faster? Sure, absolutely. But I don't think that's something that you can hold against Lance McCullers. The body is what the body is. I don't think he's not been fighting to get back. I think this guy probably would have loved to have pitched at any of the point of the last 2 years. I think it's killed him to not be able to pitch for 2 years. So I'm excited to have him back. I think he will contribute positively. I really do. He's met. I know you and I have talked about, should he be in the bullpen? But he specifically come out and said it's harder for him to throw like a bullpen reliever, right? Getting revved up later in the day, on short notice, multiple days a week versus, hey, I know I'm pitching on this day and I can get my body to work up to that. So it looks like he is going to be consistently staying in the rotation.
So if I were to round this discussion up, what I would say is I really like where the Astros are right now, or 2 games above 500, which if you compare with last year, I mean, we thought we were in the tank at this point in the season. I think I like what Espada is doing in general, in that he's playing everybody on his bench. And he's trying to give each of them a good amount of run, just basically to see what he has. And there have been some encouraging things. Chaz came out, had a 3-hit game. So he has a very healthy walk rate. So maybe we got 2022 Chaz back. Would you take that?
All day. Even 2022 Chaz was a guy who hit 255, 260, had some pop the other way. Chaz got too pull happy. I think you and I both agree.
Yeah.
When Chaz was at his best, the majority of his home runs came to right center.
Yeah, and so we're starting to see Christian Walker with some signs of life. We're starting to see.
I think he looks much more balanced, Scott. In the box, he looks much more balanced and a lot more stable with his base in the last week or so.
And Yiner is starting to show some signs of life. Pena, absolutely. And I've got an article coming out on Friday for Crawfish Boxes. He actually has much better StatCast numbers than his current numbers. And he's hitting 280. I mean, he's a guy that should be hitting well over 300 at this point. So, I mean, I think Jordan is another guy whose StatCast numbers say that he should be much, much better. And I think, Jake Myers is who he is. I think Paredes is who he is. Cam Smith, ever since that first week of the season, I think is starting to settle in and at least does something positive nearly every day that makes you think he's getting it. So I really like where this team is at. And I think, as soon as Espada really hones in on the lineup he likes, we're going to see really good things.
I agree. I think while this team is different than we've seen in years past, I think it's balanced, right? Like the lineup is fairly balanced. It's not as top heavy, I feel like it has been in, last year's, especially if we got through like the third or fourth hole in the lineup, like it was like, well, we'll get them again in the fourth. We'll get them again in the seventh, and so I like what we've done at the bottom of the lineup. I think having Cam Smith down there, DeZenzo when he's down there, I know you don't love him, but Dubon has been swinging the stick a bit better lately, started some 2-out rallies. And again, I wanted to bring note of the vocalness of Jose Altuve, right? Again, this is our guy. This is, if you're a Houston Astros fan and you don't have anything but glowing things to say about Jose Altuve, you're a fucking traitor. But Altuve comes out and says, I need to stop hitting leadoff. Jeremy Pena should hit leadoff. And that seems to have been a great move. And then on top of it, he came out and said, this guy needs to be signed long-term. We need to lock Jeremy Pena up. He's a future superstar. Scott, what are your thoughts on this new vocal Jose Altuve we've seen, starting last year with his comments on Bregman and now into this year?
I hope for his sake that they make a move, because not that necessarily signing Pena is the right move, but because if he keeps coming out and stepping on a limb and saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, and none of it ever happens, even somebody who's as positive as him has got to get disgruntled at some point.
Agreed. Very much so agree with that. Like, let's look at his time here, right? Like, his best friend, double play partner, Carlos Correa, like, you never even made a second offer, right? Like, everybody was acting like the Astros were still in on it when, in fact, they never did anything. Then his next best friend, Bregman, comes out publicly, says this guy's a great leader. I'll move to left field so we can keep Alex Bregman. Comes out. Astros never even made a second offer, never upped the offer. It was the same thing the whole way through. So I think you're right. Like at any point, because if Pena continues on this progression, he's gone, right? The Astros can't afford to keep him in 3 years if he continues to play like this and get better every year. So you have to lock him up at worst by the end of this year.
Yeah, and if you look at where he's at, he's on pace to be at least a 5-win player this year. If you go by Fangraphs, each win is worth about $8 million. What's 5 times 8, Tim?
And that's a big 40.
If you wait until he's a free agent, that's what you're looking at. And I don't think this team can afford a $40 million player. But
No.
if you make a move now, can you get him for 15 or 20?
I'd have to think so.
I would think so too. And you eventually
6-120. I think if you offer him 6-120, he signs that.
You eventually have to take some chances with some of these guys. Because the thing is, if you went out and you went to, let's say, Cam Smith, and you said, I'll give you 8-120. Do you think he would sign that deal now?
Probably.
And you're getting 2 potentially really good young players for a combined $35 million a year. Where if you wait, you're going to pay him more than $35 million for Pena.
And that's what's so frustrating about this current system. But it is what it is. And I appreciate Altuve being vocal. That's my guy. And if my guy is saying publicly, I want to play with him. He's a leader. He's a good defender. He's who we need. Then fucking listen up, Dana. Like, no one is more plugged into the Houston Astros than Jose Altuve.
And you're putting a lot of pressure on Dana Brown because, as you pointed out last week, if you sign those 2 guys, and let's say you give Fromber his bag, that's your team moving forward. You know that's
a good team.
That's a good team, but where you're putting pressure on Dana Brown, saying, "Okay, you have got to develop talent that can surround these guys because you can't go out in free agency and sign more once you give all those 3 guys your bag."
But that is exactly what this guy's supposed to be good at, is developing young talent, identifying who is the best of that young talent, and extending them early. Because that is the Atlanta Braves model, is it not? Like, they locked into who their fucking team was, and then they built around it with younger, developed talent. So what you're telling me is we're asking Dana Brown to do his job. Like, Hey, Dana, we're putting a lot of pressure on you to show up and do your job this week. Please do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, obviously we don't want to belabor this point too far because we got more that we want to get to. But, I mean, that's really what it comes down to for this team moving forward.
All right, Scott. Let's talk Texans draft. Now, you and I were talking draft night. All in all, I'm happy. But on Thursday night, as I waited patiently 3.5 hours for it finally to be pick 26 for my Houston Texans to come up and welcome a new member to the Swarm Brotherhood. And lo and behold, right at that fucking moment, they traded the pick to the New York Giants. Now, I love the move, all that. In that moment, though, boy, was I peeved because I waited all fucking night to watch this one name get read, and they traded it away.
Oh, you knew, though. You knew. I mean, when I saw...
I texted you it was happening.
When they saw Banks go off the board at 9, I was like, oh, shit. This is going to be a night. Booker goes off the board at 12. I mean, you're just sitting here going, oh, man, this is not going to be good. And then when the Vikings pick a lineman that you may have wanted right before your pick.
And then 2 picks before that was Golden going to the Packers, who I wanted.
Yeah, Golden, I would like to have had Golden. And then who was it that South Dakota State guard got picked, I think, 19.
I liked him a lot, too.
You're just like, oh, shit. But I think there are 2 ways to look at the draft, right? You can look at it from, did we get good football players? I'd say that, by and large, yeah. I like both the receivers we got. I like the tackle we got. I like, the running back some, at least, to fit that role. I like the safety.
Very good pass catcher. Caught 83 passes at Mississippi State one season.
Yeah, caught 39 in this year in USC, plus ran over 1,000 yards. Okay, so and you got a good safety from Penn State, and you got maybe a good tight end late, in the 7th round. The pick of the quarterback in the 6th round really kind of confused me, but it's a 6th round pick. Who really gives a shit? But you sat there waiting, particularly on day 2, and I kept thinking in the 3rd round, we're going to pick an interior offensive line at some point, right? We're going to pick an interior offensive line at some point, right? And it never happened.
Yeah, that part was intriguing to me, Scott, that at no point did they pull the trigger on one of those other guys. But, I mean, all in all, I feel like the talent that we acquired all fits, the mentality of this football team. The first receiver, Higgins from Iowa State, like they said his comp is Nico. Well, we know how to deal with that guy. So you're going to have 2 big, strong wide receivers on the outside. Okay, I definitely like that. The other receiver you got is a twitchy slot guy, 5'10", also good in the return game. Okay, we were pretty dog shit. We were pretty terrible with the return game. So that works for me.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Like all the other ones that we've tried to draft in the past?
I'm talking about, small, twitchy, fast, good return guy. Does that sound
yes.
Does that sound
it does. It does. But also, they told me the same thing with Kenyon Martin, with who was the other one from Tech who fucking fumbled all the time.
Well, see, I was thinking Tank Dell.
Kiki Kuti. Oh, yeah, Tank Dell. This guy could be a Dell replacement if Dell doesn't come back, right? Like, he has speed, and that is something the Texans desperately needed once Tank Dell got hurt. But, like, Scott, at the end of the season, our receiving core was shit, right? Like, you look at the options that CJ had to throw to was Nico Collins, Xavier Hutchinson, and John Mechie were your 3 that you were sending out there. I think that at least we're better off now, right? Between Collins, Christian Kirk, Hollins, and whoever the slot guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But those receivers, all of which are better.
Jalen, no. We have 3 Jalens.
We do. We like Jalen's. But I'm just saying all those guys, having never played a down in the NFL, have to be better than Hutchinson.
Well, and that's the other point that I was going to make is that last year they gave a starting guard spot to Kenyon Green. They just gave it to him. No competition whatsoever. Hutchinson and John Mechie, they got given roster spots. I don't know that they particularly earned them. They just didn't have anybody better. And you also had Robert Woods, who was kind of there, didn't really do a whole heck of a lot. If you wanted to do a comp with another team, does this kind of remind you of, say, on the outside, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk with Collins and Higgins, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, I never thought of Ayuk as that much of a big-bodied receiver. I actually kind of thought him as a kind of a smaller guy, more of a Stephon Diggs body type. It honestly kind of reminds me of what the Steelers have set up right now, right? You've got DK Metcalf on one side and George Pickett's on the other. Like, just no quarterback.
Yeah. Well, Rodgers will get back to him fairly soon.
He's on a spirit journey right now, having a little ayahuasca. If you give it a couple of months, I'll let you know.
Usually we would say that Aaron Rodgers is kind of scumbaggy, but I'm pretty certain he's not going to be our guy this week. Do we want to move on to some awards? Because you suggested a new award.
I do have a new award. I don't have an icon for it yet. Haven't created it, but I will just say it. Our new award is people I want to punch in the face. And this week, I want to punch Draymond Green in the face. Because here's the differentiator for this. Horse's ass started as like a guy that we wanted to run out of town, right? That's how this thing started. Right. And it's kind of morphed, right? And now there definitely is a differentiator between a horse's ass and a scumbag, right? Like the horse's ass is almost laughable in some ways. Well, the scumbag, like you're just like kind of a piece of shit. But then there's this third category of like, you didn't really do anything wrong, but I still want to fucking hit you in the face. And that's where Draymond Green falls into right now. Because Draymond Green has played his role to perfection. He has tormented and upset and mentally fucked all of the Rockets players, right? He kicked Tari Eason in the head, and somehow Tari Eason is the one that ends up with a technical foul. I don't get it. Either way, I want to punch Draymond Green in the face. That's just where I'm at right now. Like, does he necessarily deserve it? I don't know. But I still want to fucking punch the guy right in the face.
So,
Scott, who do you want to punch this week?
I'm going to go back to the NFL draft because we're going to spend a lot of time here. So this is not a guy that you had on your radar screen, I'm sure. But, the guys are starting the draft. They're running out on their bikes. I don't know why that was, whatever.
Well, it's because the Green Bay Packers for training camp ride like the kids' bikes from the locker room to the field on like the first day. It's like a tradition. Like the local neighborhood kids bring their bikes and the Packers ride them over.
I'll even give Roger Goodell kudos for when everybody was booing him. He finally figured it out and said like, okay, just give me more. Give me more.
Give me the Vince McMahon.
It's like, okay, you finally figured it out. You're the heel. Just go ahead and go right into it. But here comes Clay Matthews up to the microphone. Did you see this, Tim?
I didn't know. I was like 15 minutes late to the draft.
So he says, this was not part of the script, but I've got a message from our president, Donald Trump.
Oh.
And so and it was unintelligible because, and you're like, okay, whatever. You might have gotten hit in the head too many times there, Clay. But nobody wants to hear about politics on draft night. If somebody had come up, I've got a message from Joe Biden, I would have said, get rid of that shit. So, Clay Matthews, you're getting punched in the face.
The old 1-2 from Scott. All right, let's do some real awards. Horses ass, Scott. Who do you have this week?
I'm going to go in a similar direction as you, but I am going to go with, and we talked about this at the beginning, NFL media / narratives. So I saw this one, and this is actually a common one where, the Sanders family didn't do anything wrong. They did the same thing as the Mannings, and everybody loved what Archie Manning did. Now, I want to ask you, Tim, I want you to go back 20 years.
I thought they were being douches. If I distinctly remember thinking, like, you're a fucking douche. You get drafted number 1 player in the NFL, you say thank you.
And I thought that was the common narrative at the time. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought. But the whole thing to compare, and this is the whole thing, the NFL is a job application. You're applying for a job. And so when you're applying for a job, Tim, have you interviewed for jobs that you maybe didn't particularly want? Like you're interviewing for more than one job at the same time. You're like, I'd rather have this job than this job.
I have, but also I kind of went the Shadur route, right? Where I'm like, I'll tell you like it is because I don't really want to work here. And you just offered me $20,000 less than what I asked for. So fuck it. We're firing from the hip now.
No, see, I'm playing it straight, and then I've actually turned down offers. I've turned down teaching jobs. And
I have too, because they offered me $20,000 less than what I'm worth.
But I never went in and played the heel. And so here's my question, Tim. And this is one that's going to govern us, I think, throughout the rest of this show, because I have a feeling that, our scumbags and horses' asses are going to be all related to this. If his name was Shadur Johnson, where would he have been drafted, do you think?
Does he act the same as he did?
Let's just say he didn't. Let's just go based on the tape.
Just on the tape, maybe third, fourth round.
Yeah. So the whole idea that this guy, he's a top 5 pick. Why? Was he better than Cam Ward?
Nope.
Was he better than Jackson Dart?
I don't think Jackson Dart's very good, but this is also an extremely weak class. So I think here's the thing, though. As a quarterback prospect, I think he's better than a lot of the guys that got drafted ahead of him. I do.
No, I agree. I
just don't think that any of these guys, other than maybe even Cam Ward, should have been a first-round draft pick. And that's how it played out.
I think he's better than Jalen Milroe.
Agreed.
I think he's better than Lau. He's certainly better than Gabriel.
Agreed. Shao, however you say his name. The guy's 26 years old.
I could have seen him being picked after Dart just based on the fact that maybe Dart played in the SEC and showed a little bit more athleticism. I could have.
I mean, Dart's the type of quarterback that Dable wants, right? Like, Dart is as close to Josh Allen as you're going to get, right? Like a guy who has a rocket, can move around the pocket, will lower his shoulder, run guys over. Like, as Dable created Josh Allen, like, he's clearly going to be looking for that prototype again.
And the whole thing was the end of this whole meme, NFL media thing was that the reason why this is different is because Sanders is black. And I'm going to say that we absolutely have a ton of racism in the league. Absolutely a ton. We have a lot more than probably even you or I would care to admit. But you cheapen that argument when you bring in stuff like this, when I don't think racism really exists here. Is it a part of it? Maybe. But you drafted a black quarterback, 2 black quarterbacks before him. So I don't know if that's necessarily it. You drafted Milroe before him. So I think this is more about how the Sanders family handled themselves than anything else.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And that's why, Scott, my horse's ass this week is the Sanders family, right? When you look at how they conducted themselves throughout this draft process, they acted like you were Andrew Luck, you were Peyton Manning, you were a 1-1 guaranteed coming out, and you could force where you wanted to go. That no one else thought that, right? Like, from a data analyst perspective, from anyone who watched the tape. But where it got weird, Scott, is what you talked about, the media narratives. This man was sold to us as a first-round pick. He was on the Dan Patrick show. He was on Rich Eisen. He was on every draft show. Everybody was saying it's between Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders for the first overall pick. If you watch the tape, this guy doesn't play like a 1-1. I would put his tape up next to Case Keenum's tape, and you tell me who had better tape. I'd put his tape up next to the UH quarterback who got drafted to the Arizona Cardinals.
Kolb?
No. The more recently, the one who was Tank Dell's.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Gosh, I can't remember his name.
Starts with a C. It's driving me crazy. Either way,
I think he had a better.
He had
arm.
good tape.
He had a better arm than Keenum. Because
but my point is, like, he's constantly bailing out of the backside of the pocket. He had terrible throws. He didn't put amazing tape together, right? Like, we were just supposed to believe that this guy was it because we were told he was it. And then the capper on top that truly makes you a horse's ass is reaching out to Donald fucking Trump and getting him to hop on Truth Social and put out a truth or whatever the fuck we call those things, talking about how good his gene stock is, and that I'm sorry, are we back in eugenics? Are we going to go backwards in time and just tell me that eugenics is back and we can build perfect human beings based on like matching genes up? Because that's what that was. So like, you threw your own party because you weren't going to go to the NFL draft, which thank God for him that didn't happen, right? But you threw your own fucking party. Like 10 kids got pranked on draft night with prank phone calls. We're only talking about one because he made such a huge fucking deal out of it. You got the dickhead with you with the giant hat on TV the whole time, standing next to you and your dad with a giant number, like a fucking money sign on it. Who is that guy? And who approved him to be there? Like, do you have any PR people? You're a millionaire at college. Spend a little bit of that money on PR, and maybe you won't be shaking your $50,000 watch on D2 kids in pregame. Maybe you won't be FaceTiming your dad in job interviews so daddy can talk you up to the Tennessee Titans owner. Maybe you won't be coming out of meetings looking so unprepared that, scouts are going and talking to the media saying this was the worst interview for the pre-draft process I have ever had. Because those are all the things that came out about the Sanders family. And let's not forget, your own son, Shiloh Sanders, just fired your fucking ass, Dion, because he went undrafted.
Well, and even if you go back before the process, if you listen to the comments this year, you talked about him backpedaling out of pockets and, being off schedule. You know whose responsibility that was, Tim?
Of head coach?
No, Shadir Sanders was the line. The line sucked.
That's always a good comment.
That's what you want out of your quarterback. Can you imagine C.J. Stroud this year going like, man, going all, do you remember the Leon commercials?
Yes.
Yeah, going all Leon saying, I need some help. I'm doing as much as I can, but I can't pick this whole team up on my back. I need some help.
Yeah, I mean,
did the 3 interceptions play a role in your mind? No. You didn't see those receivers catching it, did you?
Yeah, I made good throws. They ran the wrong routes. Maybe if I had receivers that were where they were supposed to be instead of halfway across the field. I've just never met someone so out of touch with reality, right?
Yeah.
And again, I haven't met Shadir, so I guess I still haven't met someone. But this man, he's achieved nothing. You have achieved nothing in life. You were born on third base, and you're claiming that you hit a triple. You had a mediocre college career, and before you were ever even drafted, your number was retired. Again, let's add that to the list of horses-ass things that the Sanders family has done. If you want to tell me Travis Hunter's number got retired, I don't necessarily agree with how fast it happened, but I'm like, okay, the guy had a legendary career, played both sides of the ball,
and
won a Heisman. Okay. What the fuck did Shadir Sanders do besides go 1-7 against top 25 teams, never win a ball game, and fall to the 5th round?
Hey, 3rd place in the Big 12, baby. 3rd place, Brian. 3rd place, Brian.
That's all I got. Yeah. Third place, Brian. Third place champs, Brian. All right. You want to tip a cap?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, tip a cap. I mentioned him earlier. He hasn't been perfect, but I'm going to tip a cap to Alpi Sengun. Because in 5 games of this series, he has shown up and he's played his game every night. Has he been perfect? No. Would he come out and he tell you that there's some things he can do better? He actually did. He came out and said, I'm going to make that shot at the end of the game eventually. I mean, that's what he came out and did. He is doing things the right way, and I think if you're looking at this Rockets team and you're looking at, the future, I don't know what role he plays on a championship team definitively, but I know he's part of one. And that's basically what you want out of this series.
I think he's good enough to win a championship as your big man, right? I don't necessarily want to say he's your number one option offensively, but if if you told me Sengun's my starting center, I don't feel a need to go get a different one. Like I'm happy with that, right?
Yeah, that's really what you're looking for.
I'm going to tip my cap today to Candace Parker. We had her on the call tonight for the Rockets game, and I don't believe we've had her on the previous calls. It sounded a little bit different to me, and immediately I noticed the broadcast was better with Candace Parker. She does a fantastic job. She was on a lot of the NCAA tournament stuff, the way she breaks games down. She had a lot of UH games. But I, as a guy who is a broadcaster, she is fantastic on the microphone. She was a Hall of Fame level college and WNBA player. She's knowledgeable. She understands the game. She's extremely articulate. And honestly, some people talk about, she's got a nice sounding voice, right? Like sometimes you can know everything in the world. You can have all the knowledge, but your voice sounds like shit. And then you end up sounding like Scott Farrell and you're on the 11 p.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time because no one wants to fucking listen to you, right? Like those people exist. Like they're good, but they sound like shit. Candace Parker sounds great. She does a fantastic job. I love the way she talks about basketball. And I think she's a phenomenal NBA analyst. And she's been a breath of fresh air on the TNT broadcasts.
I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Cheryl Miller being on the?
She's great too. Cheryl Miller's fantastic as well.
My favorite.
It's funny because Reggie Miller fucking sucks, and maybe that's what it was to me, Scott. Game 4 was Reggie Miller, and he literally is on air talking about how good Draymond Green is while high-fiving Draymond Green while still fucking on air, showing absolutely no class whatsoever as a broadcaster.
My favorite story, I don't know if you've heard this one. So, obviously Cheryl Miller is Reggie's older sister. So Cheryl
and better basketball player.
But I don't know if you heard this one. So he goes out, he's playing JV. I think he's like a freshman.
I know where you're going.
And I scored 32 points tonight. And everybody in the rest of the family started laughing. Cheryl Miller scored 100.
Mm-hmm.
She scored 100.
And what's sad is she played before the WNBA was like a thing.
Yeah.
Cheryl Miller would have been the best player in the WNBA, and it wouldn't have even been close.
There were professional leagues, but obviously it didn't have nearly the following that the WNBA. And the
WNBA had the backing of the NBA, right? Like that's what finally made it stick around was that like the NBA supported it.
And I've maintained that there's absolutely zero reason why women cannot be effective play-by-play people, cannot be effective color commentators. None. No reason.
I think Dottie Pepper is phenomenal on the golf broadcast. Whenever Dottie is on there, she is absolutely great. There is a all-female Major League Baseball booth. I believe it's the Angels. The A's that have the all-female booth. And then
yeah, because that's the one that Julia Morales came in and did play-by-play so that they could say it was the first time in history that you had 2 women play-by-plays in the same game.
And also, you mentioned it. Let's talk about how good Julia Morales is.
She has her own day now.
She has a line of clothes as well. But also Julia brings something special to the broadcast, right? Like she's not a token. She owns her job as a sideline reporter, and she's fantastic at it. She's just as good as Aaron Andrews. And maybe that's the homer in me because it's the Astros, but I think Julia Morales does a phenomenal job as a sideline reporter.
The hilarious moment was, I don't know which game this was, but she was in a dugout. And so directly in her point of view is Framber Valdez's ass, like 3 feet in front of her. And so the guys in the booth were just giving her shit, saying like, "Hey, look at your view." And, she took it in good humor. I guess she could have gone to HR or something, but, she didn't pull that shit. She rolled with it, and it was great for the broadcast.
And what's funny, too, Scott, is the relationship she has with the players. Frommer probably did it on purpose, too, right? Like, Frommer probably knew he was sticking his ass in her face. and maybe even had a bean burrito for lunch and thought it was hilarious, right? Like, that's just the kind of relationship that they have. Like, Fromber likes to mess with Julia, and they do it all the time.
All right, Tim.
I don't know about the bean burrito part. That I would go. If you ate a bean burrito and then stuck your ass in my face, I probably would go to HR for that.
That's a little
for that offense. Yeah, that's fucking rough. All right, man. On that note, let's talk about some scumbags. Who do you have for us this week, Scott, as your scumbag of the week?
I'm sticking in the sports world, and actually, this team actually kind of took a little bit of sting out of my scumbag call. The Rockies defeated the Braves today 2-1 to lift their record to a sparkling 5-25.
They're fighters.
That is still
20% win percent. Oh my god,
no,
20%.
Under 20.
Oh my god.
Before the day, I had them on pace to win 22 games. I think this has bumped them up to at least 25 or 26 games. Now,
oh my god, 1 out of every 6.
As a Astros fan, there is no way in hell I could give a team shit for sucking, because this organization from 2011 to 2013 was just absolutely brutal. But you know what they did, Tim? They did 2 things, the Astros. Number one, did they keep anybody good?
No.
And did they have a plan?
Yeah.
They had a plan. They executed the plan. This Rockies team, they're keeping, like, if you look at Ryan McMahon's numbers, I think he's hitting like $167 right now. But who could possibly play well in this environment? Who could possibly be good? You had you have German Marquez on the hill. I don't think he's a good pitcher, but he could be an average major league pitcher somewhere else. You had Chris Bryant, who's a former National League MVP, who I think I found on a milk carton last week. I almost felt like sending in my resume and attaching a little note saying, "Make me your GM. I couldn't possibly do any worse." And I think what makes them my scumbag is not the fact that they suck. Hey, every year there are going to be teams that suck. What makes them my scumbag is take some of these veteran players that could be useful somewhere and get rid of them. Get them onto a team that could actually do something. I mean, you could imagine that, Ryan McMahon on the Astros, you could move Paredes to second base. You could put Ryan McMahon at third base, and you probably would be maybe a game better overall. It'd be a slight improvement. But this team doesn't seem to have any kind of discernible future. Doesn't seem to have any kind of discernible plan. They spend money, but they spend it stupidly. And we keep bringing these guys back. Ownership keeps doing the same thing over and over again and thinking we're going to get a different result. Come up with a plan. Hey, maybe if you want to say fuck pitching, let's sign the best damn hitters we can get. At least it would be an entertaining brand of baseball like the Blake Street Bombers were back in the 90s. That was an entertaining brand of baseball. It wasn't great, but it was entertaining.
Yeah.
Or maybe you draft just like 50 pitchers in 50 rounds. Whatever you do something different than what you're currently doing.
I think as fans, we're okay if you take a big swing and come up empty, right? Like, we're all okay. Like, we could see, man, it sucked that Jose Abreu didn't work out, but at the time, that was the swing that needed to be taken, right? What we don't like is when we see everybody else get better or things can be done and you do nothing and then throw your hands up and go, well, don't know what you expected me to do here. And that's what the Rockies are doing, right? Like, they did nothing to get better. They have, as you said, no plan. They're holding on to players and only cratering their value, right? Like, if you could have traded Chris Bryant 2 years ago when he still was Chris Bryant, you may get something back for him. Now, you're just hoping someone takes that money off your books. You're not going to get a valuable prospect in return. You're not going to get a valuable prospect in return from McMahon. You've cratered his value. So, yeah, I'm with you, Scott. It sucks for the players that are stuck there. It sucks for the fans because that's a beautiful ballpark. I've always wanted to go.
Oh,
it's highly rated by everyone who's been there.
It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
And what do you get when you go? A shit game, right? Like, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I compared them. So right now they're at a minus 77 run differential, which puts them 27 runs worse than the 29th team. However, the Cleveland Spiders, I looked it up. Do you know what their average run differential was?
During their bad run? Oh, per game?
In 1899.
Like 7 or 8 runs?
So it was minus 4 a game.
Oh, okay.
So they went 20 and 134, and they were at over minus 700 run differential.
I don't know if you knew this, Scott, because that was back in the days of like the American League and the National League.
Yeah, right.
Well, 2 separate leagues.
Well, this is pre-American League. In fact, the American League was formed the year after that.
So at this time, I think it was when the American League was formed, it was because many people deemed the National League a little trashy, right? Like a lot of the teams were owned by brewery and beer owners, and it was just like an excuse to get people to drink more beer. Like the St. Louis Browns owner owned a bar connected to the ballpark, and shit got rowdy at those games. So the American League was like, we're going to be a classier version of baseball. And that's where like the people in the suits and all those famous pictures of men in top hats and all that stuff come from, because the National League was like people like me and you, just like commoners who want to go watch baseball and may get a little fucked up while we're out there. Well, and, the Elon Musks of the world need another place to watch their baseball.
Not only that, but owners own more than one team. So can you imagine Jim Crane?
Yeah, they're fucking loading their teams up.
Can you imagine Jim Crane owning the Astros and the Athletics? All right, I'm going to take Brent Rooker, and I'm going to give you this guy from
This is tough. I got so many good guys. How about Salsa heading to...
Okay, that guy Butler looks like an up and comer.
I've got this guy in high A. It's going to be real tough to give him up, but he's yours. He's ready to go though. He's positionally blocked at every level. You should bring him straight to the majors.
All right, that's what I got, Tom.
All right. My scumbag this week is a man who's been on TV way too fucking long, who is not good at his job, who is less accurate than the worst weatherman. And that's Mel Kiper Jr. Not only is Mel Kiper Jr. just a giant waste of space, right? Like, he is an expert only because he said he is an expert. He's never worked for an NFL team. He never did any kind of work surrounding the NFL draft before he just popped up and said, I'm an NFL draft expert. And then everyone just goes, okay, yeah, you are. Fuck yeah, you are, man. And for 40 years now, Mel Kiper shows up for 4 days a year, makes terrible picks, bets his career on guys, says that if, Jimmy Clausen wasn't an NFL MVP, he'd retire. I love Jimmy Clausen. I was a Jimmy Clausen guy. But even I didn't think he was going to be a fucking MVP, but that's what Mel Kiper does. On top of all that, he looked at 1980s Donald Trump, and he's the only guy who said, that's the haircut I want. And he, just like Trump, still rocking the same fucking awful haircut. But that's not why he's a scumbag. He is a scumbag because he couldn't just be wrong. The moment that Shadir Sanders started to drop, we watched a grown-ass, honestly, elderly at this point, man, have a fucking meltdown on national TV because he was wrong. He had then at one point went on to say that we all know that NFL GMs don't know what they're doing, and I know what I'm doing, and I would have been. If you are so goddamn good at this, Mel, why has not one NFL team called you to not even GM, right? Why have you never been head scout for an NFL team to help them prep for the draft process? Why? Because if you are such the Rain Man of the draft that you claim to be, that if teams were to go back and look at your projections on who's going to be a good player and who's not, and you hit all the time, why has not one NFL team been like, hey, this guy could be our secret weapon if we bring Mel Kiper in. Because you're not. Because you're a fucking blowhard. And you took the dreams of 32 kids in the first round and you shit all over them. So that way you could bloviate on national television about how stupid everybody else is, and you could ramble on for one man while 32 young men had their dreams made. And at the end of the day, Scott, my wife and I were talking about this. What is the draft? It is the reading of 32 names. That is all it is for the first round. They stand up, they read 32 names, and the only reason we truly watch is the excitement of these kids having their dreams come true. This year, it was limited because there was so much time of Mel Kiper just bitching and complaining that no one was taking Shadir Sanders and everyone was so stupid and he knows better than everybody else. Like, I just don't need that guy anymore. Maybe there was a time and place where that was needed on NFL Draft Day. But just like Chris Berman, that shtick don't fucking work anymore.
All right, so three thoughts immediately come to mind, Tim. So thought number one is I stopped watching. I watched the NFL Network's coverage because I couldn't watch that anymore. It was like watching, a grown man basically stripped down naked on national TV. Number two, I've always called him Mel Putz Jr. because that's just, I thought when I was a kid, I thought he was Santa Claus. Because I think he only worked one day of the year. I mean, except for the fact that he wasn't very good at it. But
Santa hit every house, Scott. Don't you be coming at Santa that way.
Well, yeah, but I imagined a backstory for him. And
just on a beach, fucking.
My backstory on him is that his dad was a draft analyst back in the '60s, Mel Putz Sr. And so you can imagine a radio call when the Bears in 1965 draft Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus, and him going like, "What the hell are they doing?"
I never would have gone with these guys here. When you had Mike Jordan on the board and you go with Gale Sayers, there's three better running backs out there, and you went with Gale Sayers. Like, yeah, these fucking GMs don't know what they're doing.
I mean, that would be Mel's dad. I did hear years ago he said that his wife does his haircuts for him. So, I mean, I guess.
What?
Yeah. His wife cuts his hair.
Did she go to the Donald Trump Beauty Academy or what? Because, like, I think a bowl haircut, you'd be better off putting a cereal bowl around your head and cutting it that way than the rug that Mel Kiper rocks. Like,
He went to Pompadours R Us, I think is basically what that amounts to. But, yeah, you mentioned the Jimmy Clausen thing. How many quarterbacks has this guy missed on? Yeah, I'm sure he loved Jamarcus Russell. He loved Johnny Manziel. He thought Johnny Manziel should be the first overall pick in the draft. So to sit there and say that, the NFL teams don't know what they're doing at quarterback, you know what? That might very well be true.
But no one does.
But no one does, right?
I'm pretty sure he loved Christian Ponder. Pretty sure he loved Jake Locker, right? Like, but also, Scott, it's easy to fall in love with a quarterback from February to draft day, right? Like, all you're doing is looking at his best plays. Like, you've put together a highlight tape of this guy's best plays. All college quarterbacks, if you're a starter, should have 15 to 20 really nice throws throughout the year. You're a fucking D1 starter. I would expect you to have 15 to 20 throws that I can rotate through an ESPN highlight and make it look like you are a good player. Because that's all it is. He doesn't do any deep dives. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because he's a fucking scumbag.
Well, and here's the thing that kills me, right? I am a huge TCU fan. There is not going to be anybody probably who's listened to this podcast that's a bigger Max Duggan fan than I am. Max Duggan, second place in the Heisman. Do you know when he was drafted, Tim?
Either 7th or undrafted.
He was 7th round pick by the Chargers. And the reason is because, like, he was throwing punts out there. Like, these guys will be like 20 yards wide open, schemed wide fucking open, and they have to sit there and do a fair catch, waiting for the ball to get to him. But, yeah, he put up some numbers. And see, you can watch Shadur Sanders, and even if you watch tape from beginning to end, he threw 39, 40 touchdowns. I mean, that's impressive. What's the competition in the Big 12? How good are these teams?
Strong.
Well, yeah, but not as strong as the SEC, not as strong as the Big 10. But but even then, even if you're in the Big 10, who are the good teams in the Big 10? You got what? Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. You still have 8 other games on your schedule. You can still dominate those 8 other games. You could throw 30 touchdown passes in 8 games and go back in the end of the year. Look, I've got 35 touchdown passes in 12 games. Look how good I am. Well, what did you do against those really good teams? Well, I threw 5 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Okay. I mean, that's the problem that you have when you're looking at these guys. And, Jackson Dart is another great example. We mentioned him earlier. Ole Miss came within a hair lash of making the college football playoff. They were a good team. But what did they do against the really good teams in the SEC?
Yeah, I feel like he kind of dropped the ball a little bit about some of the better teams.
Exactly. So, what are we doing? Well, then, of course, you had that guy that drafted from Syracuse who put up the best numbers, but who's Syracuse playing? That's the problem. And you mentioned Case Keenum, another great example. Case Keenum, nobody has put up better college football numbers than Case Keenum. But is Case Keenum a good starting quarterback in the league?
No.
Good backup. Great career as a backup, but not a good starting quarterback. Because the level of competition.
Nope, you're right, Scott. Absolutely right. But that's where we're at. And that's what we got for you this week. We appreciate everybody who joined us and made us a part of your week. But with those scumbags, we're going to call it a week. So we will hopefully be back next week. The Rockets can pull something out of their ass, win the next 2 games, get on to the next round. Astros get on a roll. Who knows? A lot could happen between now and next Wednesday. But that's all we've got for you. We appreciate everybody who joined us this week on Born on the Bayou Sports.